Ridley Fox didn't shower for too long, the water barely lukewarm and not lasting as long as he had hoped. He got out just as it turned cold. He dried himself, slipped back into his boxer briefs and muscle shirt, then wandered into the room while putting his earpiece back in. He'd remove it before he went to sleep. Catherine Sparks was already in bed, under the covers. She eyed him as he hung his pants over the chair in front of the corner table. She wasn't aware that he was in anti-surveillance mode. Although he wasn't looking at her, he can tell that she was watching him. She yelped, "What the?" Fox spun around in time to see her in full freak-out mode. "What's the matter?" "Something bit me!" She struggled to get out of bed, her legs tangling in the sheets as she fought her way out. Finally free, she stood on the opposite side of the bed, wearing nothing but her shirt, which hung just low enough to cover her panties. Fox sighed, his head slanting to the side. "Not the imaginary bedbugs again." Sparks examined her legs as though she were trying to catch what had allegedly bitten her. "I know what I felt." He watched her yank off the sheets again, throwing them to the floor and examining the surface, particularly the area where her legs would have been. She huffed and stormed away from the bed, straight to the coat rack, grabbing her pants and thrusting them on as she spoke. "We're leaving. I'm not staying here a second longer." "Don't start this shit again." "I mean it. I'm leaving." "Fine. Then go. I'll have the bed to myself." "Typical of you, Rob, or whoever you want to call yourself." Fox tossed the sheets back on the bed and sat down, the remote in his hand, propping his back against the headboard. He turned the television back on and ran his hand across the mattress. "The bed feels fine to me." "Bullshit! You're just saying that." She now had on her jacket, and both hands were at her sides, with clenched fists. "I don't want to stay here a second longer." Fox looked at her, shrugged his shoulders, and gestured to the door. "Then, by all means, go." He must have been convincing about letting her leave, because an "I can't believe you said that" expression appeared written all over her face. Then she scowled and crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous! Of all the hotels in town, you had to choose the cheapest, the most low-class, run-down piece of shit building in the vicinity." "Well, I'm sorry I couldn't accommodate your high-class lifestyle, the one you obtained with your bank accounts being seized and your family home nearly being repossessed." "Don't you go there. I'll be the first person to admit that I don't come from a wealthy family." Sparks pointed a finger at herself. "But just because my parents had to use most of their retirement savings to put me through college doesn't mean that I was raised without standards." "This isn't about standards. It's about us maintaining our cover." Fox got off the bed and stood in front of her. "And I know now about you, and I don't know about you, but I'm tired and would like to get some shut-eye. But instead, I have to put up with your germ-phobic chicaneries." "You're a goddamn selfish, inconsiderate prick," she yelled. "I'm a what?" Fox chuckled. "You heard me. You're an egotistical, self-serving, self-indulgent, self-centered asshole." "Yet, you couldn't do better than your ex-boyfriend Butch, who used to hit you all the time." The slap Fox earned was to his ear, temporarily making all sounds from that side feel as though he were inside a vacuum. "How dare you!" Fox didn't answer. He didn't even feel angry at the slap, and he could tell that pissed her off. So, he went for the trifecta. Might as well get a third dig in. "Are you satisfied?" She went to slap him again, with the same hand, but Fox caught it this time. She switched and tried to smack him with the other, but he grabbed that one too. Then, before she could think of kicking him in the shins or kneeing him in the balls, he had her hands stretched out and he pinned her against the bedroom door with his body. "Let me go, you asshole!" She spoke through gnashing teeth as she tried to fight him, her partially muffled cries vibrating against his chest. "I said let me go!" Fox didn't yield. Her protest grew weaker, and she wasn't through struggling. She headbutted his chest, but with limited room, she was unable to snap her head back far enough to deliver a powerful blow. Again she tried, but this time he was expecting it, and he flexed his pecs so that her head would strike hard muscle. She grunted loudly, seeming to lose strength in her third attempt, but this time when she failed to elicit the desired response from him, she buried her face in his chest and began to bite. The sharpness of her teeth cut into his flesh, but he took the pain and held it longer than she could. And that's when her grunts turned to panting as she relaxed her stance, appearing to be weak from the prolonged struggle. He took a chance and separated himself from her and loosened his grip on her wrists. He felt her hands sliding up his forearms and felt the heat from her open mouth panting against him. Her hands then quickly grabbed the neck of his shirt and pulled his mouth to hers in a hungry kiss, her teeth grabbing hold of his bottom lip and tugging hard. He forced his hips against her, pinning her against the door, his hands reaching behind to grip her ass and hoist her up. Yes, he was getting hard, and he knew she felt his cock against her. She wrapped her legs around his waist, putting her lower abdomen at the same level as his cock. As a test, Fox backed off a bit, but she followed, calling him back into her. Fuck, she wants the same thing I do. And she teased him by pushing her lower abdomen into him, holding it for several seconds before she relaxed. Fox came up for air, feeling her warm breath against his face. He then pressed his mouth onto hers, forcing his tongue deep, reacting to the level of passion she displayed as she tangled her hand in his hair. Pulling and pushing at the same time, their tongues wrestled back and forth, his winning as he pushed hers out of the way and captured her top lip between his teeth. The friction was heavy, breathing, creating the heat between them. Fox unlocked his hips from hers to come up for air. He stepped back from the door, Sparks still firmly attached to his torso, and as he spun around, he reached out, grasping onto his jacket, which slipped off the hanger into his hand. Gravity took control, and he fell on top of her, on the bed. His hand now reaching out to prop himself up. He bent his head down, lips and tongue latching onto her neck, sucking hard while his tongue snaked around, searching for the jugular. Her head snapped back, moaning, as his tongue flitted back and forth, feeling the rapid staccato of her blood pumping through the vein. He pressed harder, and she howled even louder as he bit down on her shoulder. Hard, not drawing blood. Consumed with fervor, his hand slid up under her shirt, grabbing her breast, flicking the nipple back and forth with his thumb. Ooh. She jerked in response to his action and let her loose deep guttural moan. He released her then, backing up into a kneeling position, ripping off his shirt and throwing it to the side. But she was quick, matching his desire and surpassing his speed. By the time Fox looked down, she had removed her shirt, exposing her breasts, and was unzipping the fly of her jeans. Fox backed up off the bed, grabbed the bottom of her jeans by the hem, and with one hard tug they came off, taking her panties halfway down, yanking her right off the bed with them, and face first into his hardened cock. With a grin, Fox held the sides of her head with both hands as she grabbed his ass and pulled him closer, rubbing her face against his dick, making it pop out from the top of his boxer briefs. He thrust his hips forward into her face, back and forth, her open mouth sliding up and down the length of the shaft. She stopped, releasing her grip on his ass, and he was momentarily disappointed until she reached up and pulled down his briefs. Freedom. If you want to know what happens next, you'll have to buy the book, The Demeter Code, coming July 4th, 2014. Available everywhere online. Take care.